Getting back to last night's Republican debate, joining us now is one of the candidates who was on the stage at the Reagan Library last night, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Chris, thanks for being on this morning.
Good morning, Mika. Thank you.
What the heck was that? What happened last night? Donald Trump is the front runner. He's the former president of the United States. A judge found him liable for massive fraud, and he called for the execution of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. How is it that nobody in the room brought that up last night?
Well, Mika, what I did last night was take on Donald Trump directly, as I have all throughout. I took him on Ukraine. I took him on his relationship with Putin. I took him on his failure to show up. I took him on adding $7 trillion to national debt. I took him on failure to build the wall in Mexico. So, I've only have so much time, Mika. I hit all of those things. And so maybe some of the points you wanted to have hit weren't hit. But I was trying to be responsive to the questions that were asked.
He called for the execution of Mark Milley. He called for the death of
Mika. And Mika, I talked about that this week. I talked about that this week on social media. I talked about it on other interviews I did beforehand. And it's hard for me to believe that I would come on to your show this morning after what I did and said last night, and that you have criticisms that I didn't go after Donald Trump enough. Maybe it's just too early out here in California for me, and I didn't quite hear what you were saying. But come on.
My question, it's not just you. I'm asking what was going on in that room that never came, like these two major headlines about Donald Trump, one that's absolutely frightening. Okay, what is going on in that room with all of the Republican candidates? What is happening? What universe are we in that doesn't come up? I'm not specifically pointing at you, but doesn't it seem strange?
Now, look. The questions were never asked, Mika, and I'm not going to sit up here and be defense counsel for the other 6 candidates, because I did my job last night. I was the only one who went directly after Donald Trump on all the issues I just spoke about. And I hope that you get to have each one of them on and ask them why they won't do it. I'll tell you why they won't do it, because they all want to either be Trump's running mate or in a cabinet if he becomes the nominee or becomes the president. So I have no interest in that. I've been offered all those positions before by him, with the exception of vice president, and I turned them down. So I have no interest in that. I want to be president of the United States, and that's why I was making the case about American involvement in Ukraine last night, why I was making the case on why our national debt is unsustainable, why I was making the case last night about the education system and how it is failing our children and their families. And so that's why I was out there making that case I could last night on the questions I was asked, and I was not going to get involved in the food fight that went on, like between Nikki Haley and Tim Scott about drapes in the residence of the UN ambassador. I don't think that's something that's going to improve the lives of the American people. So I decided to stick on other issues.
Yeah, that was nuts, as we pointed out a few minutes ago. So, Governor, let's try it here. I know you've talked about it earlier in the week, but just for our audience, and this morning after the debate, the former president of the United States suggested this week that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, 4-star General Milley, should be executed for treason for calling China around the 2020 election in January 6th to tell them the nuclear arsenal was secure. Is that disqualifying of Donald Trump?
Well, it's just another thing, Willie, that disqualifies him from being an appropriate candidate for president of the United States for our party and for being president himself at all. Look, Mark Milley has given this country extraordinary service, and I have great respect for him. And the fact is that this is a pattern with Donald Trump, and you all know this. If you don't agree with everything he says, you don't do everything he wants you to do, whether it's legal or illegal, ethical or unethical, right or wrong, he will then go after you. And last night, after the debate was over, the proof of who made the greatest impact was that Donald Trump was posting on Truth Social about me and only me, not the other candidates in this race. He's the one I'm the one he's the most afraid of. And what he said about Mark Milley is reprehensible. But it is not surprising, because he's called on that for other people before. And it is wrong. It needs to be called out as wrong. I did that this week, and I'm doing it again this morning. But I wish I could say I was shocked, but I'm not shocked, because this is the type of child, absolute child he is, that he uses words like that and doesn't care about the import of those words. All he cares about is what he sees in the mirror every morning.
Okay, next year, 2024, lightning strikes. The Mets win the World Series, and Chris Christie is elected president of the United States. What are you going to do about migrants from Portland, Maine to the Pacific Ocean? What are you going to do?
Well, look, Mike, the first thing we need to do is to make sure that at the southern border, we are doing much more than we're doing right now to interdict fentanyl. That's the part of it that I'm concerned the most about. 110,000 American deaths from overdose last year, and we need to do much better. And as I said last night, it's not enough just to do that on the fentanyl and the drug abuse problem. We need to provide treatment much more broadly, make it much more available. This is a disease, and a disease that can be treated and should be treated. And if we are the pro-life party, as I said last night, then you have to be pro-life for the entire life. And secondly, what we need to do is to set up an immigration law that gives people a smart, secure, and sure way to enter this country. If we're going to grow the American economy, we need to have immigrants coming to this country legally, who can provide great service to our economy and our people, while at the same time enhancing their lives and the livelihoods of their families. And you need a president who's willing to step up to the plate and get that done. And I talked about both of those things last night on the debate stage, Mike, and I believe them. We need to make sure we continue to have legal, smart, and effective immigration for people who want to come here and make a life for themselves and contribute to growing the American economy and our way of life. We also need to secure the southern border, most importantly, because we have to lower the amount of drugs that are coming into this country, but at the same time, have to provide treatment for the disease of addiction. And I believe in this very strongly. You all know that. This is a disease just like heart disease, just like diabetes, just like cancer. And we have to stop stigmatizing it and start treating it, because we are not going to save American lives exclusively by interdicting drugs from coming into our country. We're going to do it in combination with providing treatment for the disease to lower demand here as well.
Governor Christie, you've made it clear that stopping Donald Trump is important to the future of American democracy. And last night on that debate stage, you and Nikki Haley seemed to be the only candidates who had the command presence and could really take on Donald Trump and also take on Joe Biden. If it all is going to come down to New Hampshire, and you know this better than anyone, having you ran a great campaign in 2016, how are you getting the sense the field is going to be winnowed? And if you're down before New Hampshire, would you drop out of the race?
No, I have every intention of winning New Hampshire, and I wouldn't drop out before that. And I don't think I'm going to see any evidence that would compel me to do so. But what I would also say to you is, at least what I see up in New Hampshire, is Donald Trump in almost every poll well below 40%. In New Hampshire. What we see in New Hampshire is people of all kinds engaging in the debate that's going on up there and in the electoral process. We have great crowds at our town hall meetings. I'll be up there tomorrow in Keene, New Hampshire, to do another town hall on Friday night. And what we need from people is to say, you think about what that debate would have been like last night if I was not on the stage. Think about what that debate would have been like. No one would have been willing to take on Donald Trump as pointedly and directly as I was. And so that's why, the RNC has raised the requirement, by the way, 40%. You need 40% more donors between now and November 8th to be on that debate stage. So I'd ask all your viewers who care about having that, go to chrischristie.com, donate $1. I'm not asking for money. I just need those donors to make sure I stay on the stage to continue to bring the case against them. I'll bring it there. I'll bring it in New Hampshire and South Carolina. And when we win New Hampshire, we're going to shock the world and turn this race on its head.
2024 Republican presidential candidate, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, up early to join us this morning. Governor, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
It's early, Willie. I had absolutely no idea. None at all.
It's early here.
It's great.
3 hours earlier for you.
Oh, what time is it, Willie? I have no damn idea. Thank you.
Back to bed with you, Governor. Back to bed with you.